Stop me when one of these sounds familiar. You are working hard every single month. You show up, you put in the hours, you pay your bills, you try to be careful, you do everything you were told you were supposed to do. And yet, at the end of the month, there is never quite as much progress as there should be for the effort you are putting in. The numbers move, but not fast enough. The savings grow, but not quickly enough. The debt shrinks, but it never seems to disappear. And there is this persistent, low-level feeling that no matter how disciplined you try to be, something is working against you. Here is the uncomfortable reality that nobody tells you clearly enough. For the vast majority of people who feel financially stuck despite genuine effort, the problem is not effort. It is not discipline. It is not income. It is a specific set of financial mistakes, 7 of them, that are running quietly in the background of their financial life, costing them real money every single month and producing exactly the kind of slow, frustrating, almost invisible financial drag that makes hardworking people feel like they are somehow failing at something they are actually trying very hard at. And the most infuriating thing about these 7 mistakes, they do not feel like mistakes when you make them. That is what makes them so persistent and so expensive. They feel like normal behavior. They feel like what everyone does. They feel, in many cases, like the responsible choice. And that invisibility, that complete absence of any signal that something is wrong, is precisely what allows them to compound quietly against you for months and years without ever being identified and corrected. In this video, I am going to name all 7 of them. I am going to explain exactly how each one works, precisely what it costs you, the specific psychological mechanism that keeps it running undetected, and the exact concrete immediate action that eliminates it from your financial life. Not vague advice about being more disciplined, specific actions. This week, that changed the trajectory before we get into the 7-1 important framing. This video is not here to make you feel bad about where you are financially. If you are watching this, you are already doing something most people never do, taking your financial education seriously. What I want for you by the end of this video is not guilt. It is clarity, because clarity is what makes action possible. And action is the only thing that actually changes financial outcomes. Let me ask you one direct question before we start. How many of these 7 are you making right now? Be honest with yourself as we go through them, because recognizing the mistake is already half the correction. Let us go. Why smart people make these mistakes? Before we get into the 7 mistakes, let me answer the question that most people ask when they encounter this kind of content. If these mistakes are so common and so costly, why do intelligent, capable, hardworking people keep making them? The answer is not what most people expect. It is not a lack of financial education, though that plays a role. It is not carelessness. Most people making these mistakes are genuinely trying to manage their finances responsibly. The real reason is far more fundamental and far more universal than either of those things. Our financial habits were formed before we had the knowledge to evaluate them. Most of the patterns we have around money, how we respond to a pay rise, how we think about debt, how we relate to saving versus spending, were shaped by the environment we grew up in, the financial behavior we observed in the people around us, and a school system that in virtually every country provides almost no useful financial education whatsoever. We absorbed a framework for managing money before we had the critical thinking to question it. And then we built financial lives on top of that unexamined framework. The result is that most people are making financial decisions in 2026 based on a financial operating system that was installed in childhood and never deliberately updated. The mistakes we are about to discuss are not personal failures. They are the predictable outputs of an outdated framework, meeting a modern financial world it was not designed to navigate, which means the correction is not self-criticism. The correction is framework upgrade. Each of the 7 mistakes we are going to cover is at its core an invitation to update a specific element of how you think about and manage money. The update takes minutes to understand, the compound benefit of making it last decades. Operating without a written financial plan. Mistake 1, the navigation problem. You would not attempt to build a house without a blueprint. You would not drive to an unfamiliar destination without directions. Yet most people navigate their entire financial lives, decades of earning, spending, saving, borrowing, and investing, without a written plan of any kind. And the consequence of this is not just that progress is slower than it could be. It is that progress is fundamentally accidental. Without a plan, the financial outcomes you experience are whatever the default behaviors of your spending habits, your employer's payroll system, and your lender's payment schedules produce together. You are not driving your financial life, you are a passenger in it, Most people have a vague financial intention. They want to save more. They want to pay down debt. They want to invest at some point. They want to be in a better financial position in a few years than they are today. These are real desires, but they are not plans. They have no numbers attached, no timelines, no specific actions, no system for measuring whether they are on track or drifting. And vague intentions, however sincere, produce vague results. The difference between a financial intention and a financial plan is the same as the difference between wanting to get fit and having a specific training program. Both represent a real desire for change, but only one of them produces a reliable result. The program has specific actions, specific frequency, specific progression, and specific measures of success. The desire has none of those things, and without them it stays exactly what it is, a desire. Think about two people with identical incomes and identical financial starting points. The first has a vague intention to do better with money. They try to spend less, they put a little aside when they can. They think about investing, but never quite get around to it. And every few months they feel guilty about not making more progress. The second has a written financial plan. They know their net worth to the dollar. They have a specific savings rate target. They have a debt elimination timeline. They have an investment account with automatic contributions. They review their plan every quarter and adjust as needed. 5 years later, these two people, identical starting points, identical incomes, are in dramatically different financial positions. Not because one was more disciplined or more intelligent, because one had a map and the other was hoping to find their way by feel. A written financial plan does not need to be complex. It does not require a financial advisor to create. It needs to answer 5 specific questions with honest, specific answers. What is my current net worth? Every asset, every liability, the gap between them. What are my specific financial goals with actual numbers and actual dates attached? What does my monthly budget need to look like to reach those goals? What is my investment strategy? Where will my money grow and how will I access it? And what is my protection plan? What happens if something goes wrong? These 5 questions, answered clearly on paper, create a financial navigation system that transforms every subsequent financial decision from a guess into a guided choice. Should I buy this? Run it against the plan. Does this serve my goals? Does it fit my budget? Does it accelerate or delay my timeline? A written plan makes these questions answerable in seconds rather than navigable, only by intuition. Research on financial goal achievement consistently shows that people with written financial plans accumulate significantly more wealth over comparable time periods than those without them. Not because they earn more, but because their decisions are consistently more aligned with their actual priorities. A plan turns financial goals from wishes into targets, and targets measured and tracked are hit far more often than wishes. The most common reason people give for not having a written financial plan is that they do not know where to start. So let me give you the starting point right now. After this video ends, not tomorrow, not next week, today, open a document on your phone or computer and write down 2 things. Your current net worth, the best estimate you can make right now of everything you own minus everything you owe. And your single most important financial goal for the next 12 months, with a specific number and a specific date. That is the seed of a financial plan, and it is infinitely more powerful than no plan at all. Model action this week: write down your net worth and your top financial goal with a specific number and date. 1 page, 30 minutes. The foundation of every other correction in this video. Upgrading your lifestyle with every income increase. Mistake 2. The raise that disappears here is a pattern that plays out so consistently across so many people at so many income levels that it is essentially a financial law. Every time your income goes up, your expenses go up to match, and your savings rate stays exactly where it was. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is not a personal weakness or a character flaw. It is a deeply human, deeply predictable response to having more money available. When you have more, you spend more, you upgrade the apartment, you get the better car, you eat out more, you buy the things you have been telling yourself you could not afford. You build a lifestyle that reflects your new income level. And within 3 to 6 months, the extra money has been completely absorbed by the upgraded life, and nothing has changed in terms of financial progress. The brutal truth about lifestyle inflation is this: it is not just normal, it is specifically engineered. The entire consumer economy, advertising, credit products, social media, retail design, is built around the principle that when people have more money, they will spend it on consumption rather than investment. And it is extraordinarily effective. The average person who receives a raise has spent the entire additional income within 6 months. Not on investment, not on debt elimination, on lifestyle. The cost of this pattern is not just what you spend in the month of the raise. The cost is the compound investment return of every dollar that went into upgraded lifestyle instead of into an investment account. A raise of $5,000 per year, if invested rather than spent, compounds at historical market returns into a significantly larger sum over 20 years. Multiplied across every raise you will ever receive in your working life. The total opportunity cost of lifestyle inflation is enormous and almost completely invisible because the spending happens gradually and feels completely justified in every individual instance. Consider two colleagues, same job, same salary, same raise schedule. Over 10 years, both receive identical pay increases that total an additional $30,000 per year by the end of the period. The first colleague has upgraded their life with every raise, nicer apartment, newer car, better holidays, more expensive habits. They earned significantly more than 10 years ago and have very little more to show for it financially. The second colleague made a different decision early on. With every raise, they maintained their existing lifestyle and directed 70% of every increase directly into investments. Their lifestyle improved modestly over the decade. Their investment portfolio grew dramatically. Same salary history, same raise schedule. The difference is entirely in the decision made with every income increase. The correction here is not to never upgrade your lifestyle when your income grows. A life of permanent self-denial in pursuit of future wealth is not a financial strategy most people can sustain, and it is not one I would recommend. The correction is to be deliberate rather than automatic. To decide in advance, before the raise arrives, before the lifestyle adjusts, what percentage of every income increase will go directly into investment, and what percentage will improve your current quality of life. The most effective approach is to set a pre-committed rule before any income increase arrives, something like 70% of every raise goes to investment, 30% improves lifestyle. This rule applied consistently means your quality of life improves with your income, just more slowly than your income grows. And the gap between income growth and lifestyle growth is where wealth is built. Every time, at every income level, the financially independent people studied across decades of personal finance research share one consistent habit that crosses income levels, industries, and countries. They maintain their savings rate as a percentage of income. Even as their income grows, their lifestyle improves, but proportionally less than their income does. The gap between income and lifestyle is what gets invested. And that gap, compounded over a working life, is what produces financial freedom. Motel action this week. Decide right now. What percentage of your next income increase will go directly to investment before your lifestyle adjusts? Write it down. Tell someone who will hold you to it. Pre-commit before the raise arrives, because once the lifestyle adjusts, redirecting it is far harder. Having no emergency fund, mistake 3, the financial fragility trap. There is a specific kind of financial stress that millions of people carry every single day without fully naming it. It is the quiet background anxiety of knowing that one unexpected expense, one bad week, could undo everything you have been working to build. That anxiety is not irrational. For most people, it is a completely accurate assessment of their financial situation. Because most people are operating without an emergency fund, without a dedicated financial buffer between their day-to-day finances and the inevitable unexpected expenses that life delivers with remarkable consistency. And without that buffer, the financial situation is genuinely fragile. One car repair, one medical bill, one period of reduced income away from a crisis. The absence of an emergency fund is one of the most widespread and most structurally damaging financial mistakes that exists. And it is one that creates a vicious cycle that is genuinely difficult to escape without understanding it clearly. Here is how the cycle works. Without an emergency fund, every unexpected expense becomes a financial crisis. The crisis is resolved by one of a small number of options. Credit card debt, personal loan, drawing from savings, or borrowing from family. All of these options either create new debt, disrupt investment progress, or both. And then the work of recovering from the crisis begins, paying off the new debt, rebuilding the savings, getting the financial plan back on track until the next unexpected expense arrives. Which it will, because life is reliably unpredictable. The emergency fund breaks this cycle. When the car needs repairs, and there is a dedicated emergency fund in place, the repair is covered from the buffer, the fund is replenished over the following months, and the investment contributions continue without interruption. No new debt, no disrupted progress, no recovery period. The unexpected expense is absorbed by the system rather than disrupting it. Think about two people at the same financial starting point, same income, same savings rate, same investment account. Over 3 years, each of them experiences the same set of unexpected expenses: a car repair, a medical bill, a period of reduced hours at work, a home appliance failure. For the person without an emergency fund, each of these events creates credit card debt or liquidates investments at the worst possible moments. By the end of 3 years, their financial position has barely improved despite consistent effort, because every period of progress has been erased by the next crisis. For the person with a 3-month emergency fund, each of the same unexpected expenses is absorbed by the buffer. The investment account continues untouched. The debt remains eliminated. By the end of the same 3 years, their financial position has improved significantly. Same income, same effort, same unexpected expenses. The emergency fund is the only difference. The target is straightforward: 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses. The minimum you need to keep your life running, held in a separate, dedicated, easily accessible account that is never mixed with everyday spending money and never invested in assets subject to market volatility. This money is not a savings account in the traditional sense. It is insurance. It is a buffer. It is the financial infrastructure that makes every other element of your financial plan sustainable. One of the most common questions about the emergency fund is why it should not be invested. Why park money in a low-return savings account when it could be growing in the market? The answer is timing. Emergency funds need to be available immediately and at full value when needed. An investment account subject to market volatility might be down 30% precisely when the emergency arrives. The lower return of a cash savings account is the cost of that availability and stability, and it is a cost worth paying for the financial resilience it provides. A fully funded emergency fund is the single most effective protection against high-interest debt accumulation that exists. People without emergency funds are significantly more likely to carry credit card balances, take personal loans, and experience financial setbacks that compound into long-term financial difficulty. The 3 to 6 months of foregone investment return from keeping the emergency fund in cash is almost always a fraction of the cost of the debt that would have been incurred without it. Action. This week, open a separate dedicated savings account specifically labeled emergency fund. Transfer whatever you can today, even if it is a small amount. Set up a monthly automatic contribution to build it. Target 3 months of essential expenses. Treat reaching that target with the same urgency you would treat a financial emergency, because operating without it is exactly that. Trying to time the market, mistake 4. The expertise illusion there is an investment mistake so common and so consistently costly that financial researchers have spent decades studying it. It costs investors more money than market crashes, more than bad fund choices, more than excessive fees. And it is made almost universally by people who genuinely believe they are being smart. It is called market timing, and it is the attempt to identify the right moment to invest, to wait for the market to look safer, to pause when conditions seem uncertain, to sell before a decline and reinvest after the recovery. The logic is superficially compelling. If you could buy low and sell high reliably, you would dramatically outperform a simple buy and hold investor. The problem is that the evidence on whether anyone can actually do this reliably, consistently over long periods is utterly unambiguous. Almost nobody can. Not professional fund managers with teams of analysts and decades of experience. Not economists with access to the most sophisticated financial modeling available. Not hedge fund managers paid tens of millions of dollars specifically to make these predictions correctly. The research on active management versus passive investing is one of the most thoroughly studied questions in all of financial economics, and the answer is consistent across every country, every time period, and every market that has been examined. The vast majority of people who attempt to time the market underperform a simple strategy of investing consistently and staying invested over the long term. But here is the psychological trap that makes market timing so persistent despite this evidence. It feels smart. When the market looks uncertain, when economic news is negative, when volatility is high, when the headlines are alarming, waiting feels like the prudent, considered, intelligent response. Investing into that environment feels reckless. And so people wait for clarity, for stability, for the moment when it feels safe to invest. And while they wait, the market continues doing what it has always done in the long run, moving upward. And the waiting investor misses those returns permanently. Consider the investor who decides in late 2008, during the depths of the financial crisis, that the market is too dangerous to enter and waits for clarity before investing. They wait through 2009 as the market begins recovering. They wait through 2010 as it continues climbing. By 2011, the market has recovered significantly from the lows of 2008, and the investor who was waiting for the safe moment to invest has missed one of the most powerful recovery periods in market history. Meanwhile, the investor who simply continued their monthly contributions throughout, who invested into the crisis because their plan said to invest every month regardless of conditions, bought more shares at lower prices during the downturn and captured the full recovery. Same starting capital, completely different outcomes, produced entirely by the decision to wait versus the decision to stay consistent. The mathematics behind why timing fails are important to understand because they explain why even partial timing, missing only a small number of the market's best days, produces dramatically worse results. Market returns are not evenly distributed across trading days. A significant portion of the total long-term return of any given market is concentrated in a relatively small number of exceptional days. And those exceptional days, when markets recover sharply after a downturn, almost always occur when conditions feel most uncertain and most dangerous. The investor who is sitting in cash waiting for clarity is almost guaranteed to miss exactly the days that matter most. Studies on U.S. equity market performance over extended periods consistently show that an investor who missed only the 10 best trading days out of thousands would have earned returns roughly half of those earned by an investor who stayed fully invested throughout. The best days in the market almost always occur when conditions feel worst, which means the investors most likely to be in cash rather than invested are the ones who experience them from the sidelines. The alternative to timing is deceptively simple and extraordinarily effective. Invest consistently regardless of market conditions, stay invested through volatility, and trust the long-term historical reality that diversified equity markets have always recovered from every decline in their documented history. This is not blind optimism. It is the mathematically supported conclusion of studying market behavior over more than a century of documented data. Action this week: if you have been waiting to invest, stop waiting and start. If you have already started, commit in writing to maintaining your automatic contributions through the next market decline, whatever it looks like and whenever it arrives. Pre-commit to not timing, because the commitment made before the market falls is the only commitment that will hold when it does. Managing high-interest debt instead of eliminating it. Mistake 5. The interest blind spot. Most people think about debt in terms of whether they can afford the monthly payment. The financially sharp think about debt in terms of its total cost and its opportunity cost. That difference in perspective is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Here is the fundamental problem with thinking about debt only in terms of monthly payments. The monthly payment tells you nothing about what the debt is actually costing you. A credit card balance of $5,000 with a minimum payment of $100 per month feels manageable. It is $100. It fits in the budget. It does not feel like a crisis. But at 22% annual interest with only minimum payments, that $5,000 balance will take approximately 25 years to pay off and will cost more in total interest than the original balance. The item purchased, whatever it was, is long gone. The financial obligation it created continues for a quarter of a century. This is the minimum payment trap, one of the most profitable products the financial industry has ever created. The minimum payment is carefully designed to feel affordable while maximizing the total interest revenue the lender extracts from the borrower. It is not designed with your financial interests in mind. It is designed to keep you paying interest for as long as possible while never quite eliminating the underlying obligation. But the direct interest cost is only one dimension of what high-interest debt actually costs. There is a second, larger, and almost entirely invisible cost, the opportunity cost. Every dollar paid in credit card interest is a dollar that could have been invested. Not just that dollar, but that dollar compounding over the years it would have been invested. Someone paying $200 per month in credit card interest over 10 years is not just losing $200 per month. They are losing the investment returns that $24,000 invested over those 10 years would have produced. The true cost of the debt is not the interest you pay, it is the compound growth you never receive. Imagine two people with identical financial situations, same income, same expenses, same budget. The first person carries a credit card balance of $8,000 and makes minimum payments, paying approximately $160 per month, primarily in interest with minimal principal reduction. The second person eliminates that same $8,000 balance aggressively over 12 months, redirects those $160 per month into investment. Over 20 years, the first person has paid thousands in interest and still carries much of the original balance. The second person's redirected investment, $160 per month for 20 years at historical market returns, has grown into a significant sum. Same starting position. The debt elimination produced an outcome that is dramatically better in both financial and psychological terms. The reason most people manage rather than eliminate high-interest debt is a combination of three factors. The monthly minimum feels manageable and does not trigger the urgency response that the total cost should. The total cost is almost never presented clearly at the point of borrowing or on monthly statements. And the opportunity cost, the invisible tax of foregone investment returns, is completely absent from every piece of communication the lender sends you. Once you see the full picture, the direct interest cost, the extended timeline, and the opportunity cost, high-interest consumer debt stops feeling like a manageable monthly expense and starts feeling like the financial emergency it actually is. And responding to it with that urgency, attacking it aggressively with every available dollar rather than managing it with minimum payments, is one of the highest return financial decisions available to anyone carrying it. The return on eliminating a 22% interest rate debt is a guaranteed 22% on every dollar applied. There is no legitimate investment product available to individual investors that offers a guaranteed 22% return at zero risk. Eliminating high-interest debt is not just the responsible thing to do. It is mathematically the highest return zero-risk investment available and should be treated with the enthusiasm appropriate to that description. Model action. This week, list every debt you carry, the balance and the interest rate. Calculate your current total monthly interest cost. Then calculate what that same amount invested monthly at 8% returns over 20 years. See the true cost clearly. Then choose your elimination strategy, avalanche or snowball, and apply every available dollar above the minimum to your primary target starting this month. Treating financial education as optional. Mistake 6. The highest return investment nobody makes here is a question most people have never seriously asked themselves. What is the return on financial education? Not in the abstract sense of whether learning about money is a good idea. In the concrete, measurable sense. How much money does a genuine investment in financial knowledge actually produce over your lifetime? The answer, when calculated honestly, is one of the most compelling arguments in personal finance. A person who develops a solid understanding of compound interest, genuinely understands it, not just knows the term, makes fundamentally different decisions about when to start investing and how much to contribute. Those decisions, compounded over a working life, can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A person who understands how mortgages are structured and how to compare them effectively saves a meaningful sum on the largest financial transaction most people ever make. A person who understands salary negotiation and market rates earns meaningfully more over a career than someone who does not, simply by knowing what to ask for and how to ask for it. The financial return on each of these knowledge investments is not measurable in simple percentage points. It manifests in better decisions that are made with accurate information rather than intuition or assumption, decisions that account for long-term consequences rather than just immediate impact, decisions that compound over time into a financial life that looks dramatically better than the one built on incomplete understanding. And yet most people spend more time researching a television purchase than they spend developing their understanding of how money, investing, and wealth actually work. They will read dozens of reviews before buying a $500 appliance. They will make a $50,000 mortgage decision based on a conversation with a broker who has a direct financial interest in the outcome. Not because they do not care about their financial life, because they have absorbed from school, from culture, from the implicit messages around them, the belief that finance is complicated, intimidating, and best left to experts. Consider two people approaching the same mortgage decision. The first knows nothing about how mortgages work beyond the monthly payment. They sign where they are told to sign, trust that the institution has offered fair terms, and do not ask questions they do not know to ask. The second person has spent time genuinely understanding mortgage structures, interest calculations, and what good terms look like. They know what questions to ask, they understand the full cost implications of different structures, and they are able to negotiate from a position of genuine understanding. On a $300,000 mortgage, this knowledge difference is worth tens of thousands of dollars over the loan term. The investment in knowledge was a few hours of focused reading. The return was tens of thousands of dollars. That is one of the highest return ratios available from any investment of any kind. The most important thing to understand about financial education is that it compounds in the same way that money compounds. Each piece of knowledge you add builds on what you already know. Each concept you genuinely understand makes the next concept easier to grasp. Each better decision you make, informed by better knowledge, produces better financial outcomes that make future decisions easier still. Knowledge compounds. Ignorance also compounds. In the opposite direction, the commitment required is not enormous. 30 minutes a day of genuine focused financial learning through quality books, research-backed content, or structured courses sustained consistently over months and years produces a level of financial literacy that most people never develop. And that literacy pays dividends in the quality of every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. The return is genuinely incalculable because it shows up in every financial choice you ever make rather than in any single account. Research on financial literacy and wealth consistently shows a significant positive correlation between financial knowledge and wealth accumulation, even after controlling for income. People who understand compound interest, diversification, basic investing principles accumulate significantly more wealth at comparable income levels than those who do not. The knowledge itself is an asset, and unlike financial assets, no market decline can reduce its value. Action this week. Commit to 30 minutes per day of genuine financial education. Choose one high-quality book, one well-researched video series, or one structured course. Start today, not eventually today, because the compound effect of financial knowledge starts the moment you begin building it. Waiting for the perfect time to start. Mistake 7. The most expensive habit of all 7 mistakes on this list. This is the one I want you to feel most directly, because it is the one that compounds the fastest, costs the most, and is disguised most effectively as something it is not, which is patience, waiting for the perfect time to start, the perfect time to open the investment account, the perfect time to begin the debt elimination plan, the perfect time to set up the emergency fund, the perfect time to start taking your financial life seriously. Most people who are not doing these things are not avoiding them because they do not care. They are waiting for conditions to improve, for more money to work with, for less debt to worry about, for more stability before taking on something new, for clarity before committing to a direction. And in the meantime, while the conditions they are waiting for either arrive too slowly or never arrive at all, a specific and irreplaceable financial resource is disappearing. Not money, time. And in the mathematics of compound growth, time is not just one ingredient among several. Time is the engine. Time is what transforms modest, consistent contributions into life-changing sums. And unlike money, which can be earned, saved, inherited, or received in 100 different ways, time once passed is permanently gone. The mathematics of this are not motivational language, they are arithmetic. And understanding them clearly is one of the most powerful cognitive shifts available to anyone at any stage of their financial life. The compound growth formula is exponential, not linear. This means that the early years of investment, the years closest to the start, produce a disproportionately large share of the total lifetime wealth created by the investment. The first 10 years of compound growth are not 1/6 of 60 years of compound growth. Because of the exponential nature of compounding, they are the foundation on which every subsequent decade builds, and without them, every subsequent decade starts from a lower base. Here is a concrete illustration. 2 people, both saving and investing for retirement. Person A starts at 25, investing a fixed monthly amount, and continues for 40 years until retirement at 65. Person B waits until 35 before starting, just 10 years later, and then invests that same fixed monthly amount for 30 years until the same retirement age. Who ends up with more? Person A, almost certainly, by a margin that may be larger than you expect. Despite Person B investing for 30 years versus Person A's 40, the 10-year head start that Person A had allowed their early contributions to compound for an additional decade. That first decade of compounding, those 10 years of growth that Person B chose to wait through, may represent as much wealth as all of Person B's 30 years of contributions combined. 10 years of delay, a potentially enormous permanent difference in retirement wealth. The reason waiting for the perfect time feels like the responsible choice is that starting with imperfect conditions feels uncomfortable. Starting to invest when you still have some debt feels inconsistent. Starting to save when the amount available is embarrassingly small feels futile. Starting to build a financial plan when you are not sure of all the right answers feels premature. These feelings are real and understandable. But they are the feelings of someone whose frame of reference is the ideal starting condition rather than the actual starting condition. The financially smart frame is not, I will start when conditions are right. The financially smart frame is, the best conditions are whatever condition exists right now. Because right now is the only time available to me, and every month I wait is a month of compound growth I permanently sacrifice. Starting imperfectly, with a small amount, with incomplete knowledge, with some debt remaining, is not a compromise. It is the only option available, and it is infinitely better than the alternative. There is another dimension to this mistake that deserves direct address. Waiting does not just cost compound growth, it costs habit formation. The habits of regular investing, consistent saving, and deliberate financial management are built through practice, through doing them regularly until they become automatic. A person who starts at 25 and invests every single month through 40 years has not just accumulated more money than someone who started at 35. They have 10 more years of habit, 10 more years of the automatic, frictionless financial behavior that sustains wealth building through every phase of a complex and unpredictable life. The habit is the asset, and habits take time to build. Every year of delay in starting to invest produces a permanent reduction in the final portfolio value at retirement, not a temporary setback that can be recovered through higher contributions later. A 10-year delay typically requires more than doubling the monthly contribution to produce the same final outcome, and in many scenarios cannot be fully compensated for at all. The cost of waiting is not recoverable. It is permanent. Understanding this, feeling this arithmetically in your bones, is what makes starting today the only rational choice. So let me address directly the specific conditions. Most people say they are waiting for. Waiting until you have more money? Start with whatever you have. $20 a month invested is worth more than $0 invested because it starts the habit, starts the compounding, and starts you building the identity of someone who invests. Waiting until you have less debt. If it is high interest debt, eliminate it first. We covered that. If it is manageable debt, start investing alongside the repayment. Waiting until you know more, you know enough right now to open an account and buy a broad market index fund, start. Then keep learning, waiting for the market to look better. We covered that. It never looks better. It always looks complicated. Invest anyway. Model action this week, not next week, not next month, this week. Identify the one financial action you have been waiting to take. Open the account, make the first transfer. Set up the automatic contribution. Sign up for the course. Write the plan. Whatever the thing is you have been waiting to start it today. The amount does not matter. The action does start now. Final message: 7 mistakes. 7 quiet, persistent, often invisible financial patterns that cost hardworking people real money every month and real wealth over every decade. Mistake 1. Operating without a written financial plan, navigating without a map, and arriving wherever the road takes you, rather than where you intended to go. Mistake 2. Upgrading your lifestyle with every income increase, ensuring that no matter how much more you earn, your savings rate never improves. Mistake 3. Having no emergency fund, staying one unexpected expense away from crisis, and letting every financial setback undo the progress of every quiet period. Mistake 4. Trying to time the market, consistently missing the returns that patient, consistent investors capture. Mistake 5. Managing high-interest debt instead of eliminating it, paying a permanent, compounding, invisible tax on every dollar of purchasing power that debt represents. Mistake 6. Treating financial education as optional, making decades of financial decisions with an incomplete framework, while the true cost of that incompleteness compounds silently. And mistake 7. Waiting for the perfect time to start, sacrificing the irreplaceable compound growth of time, while the ideal conditions you are waiting for either arrive too late or never arrive at all. Here is what I want you to take from this. Every single one of these mistakes is correctable right now, today. Not with extraordinary income, not with financial expertise you do not yet have, not with perfect circumstances that may never exist, with a decision, with a specific action this week. Pick the mistake that hit hardest, the one where you felt the clearest, most uncomfortable recognition of yourself. Address that one first. Not all 7 simultaneously. 1. Make the change this week. Let it become automatic, then address the next. Because the compound effect of sequential, consistent corrections to these 7 patterns, applied over months and years, produces financial outcomes that are genuinely transformative from wherever you are starting. The financial edge you are looking for is not a secret strategy. It is not a hot investment tip. It is the consistent elimination of the patterns that are working against you, replaced by the habits and decisions that compound in your favor. Fix the leaks. Build the foundation. Then grow from something solid. Your financial future is being determined right now by the decisions you make this week, this month, this year. Make sure those decisions are the ones your future self will be grateful for. If this video gave you clarity or pushed you toward an action you have been avoiding, please share it. The most valuable financial gift you can give someone is an honest mirror. Subscribe to our Financial Edge for a new video every week. And leave a comment below. Which of the 7 mistakes did you recognize most clearly in yourself? Drop the number. I read every single reply. See you in the next one.